Hi, this is Ryan with Jedi Master Tech, and today I have a custom build for you. This is the Leia from 89Sabers. This is a Proffie build. We'll get into all the details, but first in the box, of course, we have the Saber itself, a charge cable, hardware, a stand for the fully removable chassis, a SD card reader, and a micro USB right-angled cable for programming. We'll take a look at the hilt. This is just an absolute gorgeous piece here. One of the most beautiful I've worked with. It's got a rose gold color. It's got this mother of pearl inlay all the way around. This is a 2-button saber, lit button in the front, and then in the back is almost a recessed hidden button for the aux. It's got an open style emitter with a blade plug, the D-ring on the bottom, and then the venting for the speaker is almost hidden in there. Still looks very elegant, but lots of good sound that comes out of that. So I did design a custom chassis for this build. Let's go ahead and open it up and I'll show you the chassis. So to do that, just unscrew this pommel cap, just like that, and then this will slide right out. Taking a look at this, took some design cues from how a Saber might work with plasma chambers here with some accent LEDs, and then just brass accents throughout with the piping and along the side, with the idea that plasma essentially would flow from the battery into the plasma chamber to get its charge, and then that would flow through these pipes up here into a crystal reveal that we have right there. And the other thing we have here is a USB-C for charging. So onboard charging, we're using a 28mm Smuggler's Outpost dark side speaker for some really good bass. And we'll show you that stand. This is how that stand works. This makes it so you can actually set the piece out on your desk or whatever you want to do with that. But let's go ahead and look at the boot up sequence to go along with the design cues that we have here. So if I start by flipping this kill switch right here, you'll see charge up that plasma chamber and flow into the crystal chamber. Just a nice animation that I designed specifically with this Saber in mind. With the Saber like this, with the chassis out, I can power up the Saber as ignite. This will be for gesture if you want to test it out before putting it into the hilt. So a quick twist, turn that on. You can see that flowing motion, slightly different animation, and then a power off sucks that right back in and we go back to that static. This heartbeat actually indicates a little bit about the charge condition. So the slower we're going, the higher the charge, and then as it gets a little bit more frantic or faster, that's when the battery is starting to get low. And one of the things about this particular hilt is there are these vent holes right here, and I use that as my design cue to align specifically with this crystal chamber. So when I put this back in, you'll see how that actually lines right up, and you can see the crystal through those holes. We do have, as I mentioned, a charge cable connection on this, and so you can charge straight off the chassis without removing the battery. And to do that, you just plug that USB-C in like this, and you'll see that we go into a charge mode. So of course this battery is nearly full right now, and so it's almost all the way to the top. When that gets completely to the top, it goes into a slow pulse, so you know it's done charging. If the battery is really low, it'll be all the way down here and it'll actually be red. So it works its way from red, orange, yellow, and eventually to yellow, green, and then full green at the very top, just indicating where we're at. This is the Proffie version 3.9. And you can see that board right there. One of the things about this particular build is that you don't have any access to the buttons when it's out of the chassis, or when the chassis is out of the hilt. And so I wanted to solve for that. So I added a special code that actually allows you to lay this horizontal and do a rotation so that you can swap through sound fonts. and just kind of get a preview of what that might look like in different colors. Just like that. And we'll go back. The highlighted font on this saber is Royalty by Kyberphonic. That was purchased specifically for this customer on this saber build, and just couldn't have this build without that sound font. Absolutely love that sound font, and I'll demonstrate that for you in a moment. The SD card is located right here, so obviously this is fully programmed. There's no need to pull the SD card out or even connect that programming cable that I provided in the box, but if you're so inclined, this is how you get to it, and that SD card on this particular build is really easy to get out. So if I power it down to remove the SD card, there, I just take something like tweezers and you can just grab that card and pull it right out. That was one of my design goals, is to make it easier to get the SD card in and out. And so this deck right here is lined up perfectly with the bottom of that slot, and you can push it right back in just like that. Very easy to remove and add the SD card. So we'll power it back up, go through that boot up sequence. And then put this back in the hilt. So to put it in the hilt, you want to have the battery facing straight up, the switch straight up, and we'll slide that right in like this. And it can only go in one way. So this is clocked, and so there is a groove on the back of the chassis that allows it to line up where it needs to be. And at the very top, there's actually a brass post that fits with the chassis, so you can't get it wrong. So that goes right in there, and then I like to use the pommel cap to do the final. We have chassis connect on this, so when I screw this on, you'll hear a connection tone just like that. The other thing you'll notice is that our lit switch is the same color as the blade's going to be, the same color as the crystal. Typically these come with a white LED PCB. I swapped that out because I had actually tried installing it with the white, and I didn't like it. I didn't feel like it really felt right with this build, and so this really takes it to the next level. As I mentioned, you can see right through those holes into the chamber and see that crystal inside there, which is just a really cool added feature, a bonus, if you will. And then of course, when you pull that off, let's go ahead and take a look at this emitter lit up. As I mentioned, it's an open emitter section. So if I turn it on, you can see that just really lights up nicely with that blade plug in there. And then this is a Proffie, very responsive. A clash, like just like that. Blaster blocks with the aux button. We can do that. We can turn it on and off with the button, or we can do the gesture control like we did there. Okay, let's go ahead and take this blade plug out and get a look at the emitter. This emitter is the Shock Custom Works NPixel V4. And I really like that one because it has these beautiful gold pixels. So taking a look at that right inside there, and to match that, my emitter holder is actually designed to mimic that color in there, which I think just looks really good. One of the other things that was a design goal for me was to make it so you couldn't see those pogo pins over top of this edge. Some of the Saber builds I've seen with the Leia had the pins sticking up above this edge, and you could see them even with the blade in. And so that was done on purpose to recess, bring those pins all the way down in there, gives you a little bit deeper socket and how that goes. If we turn that on, let you take a look at those with the button press. Okay, so this build has a blade detect, and so it knows without the blade in there how many pixels to light up and work through that. Let's go ahead and take a look at the blade. Okay, this is the Jedi Master Tech Tri-Core with a slight modification specifically for this saber. On the bottom of a typical Tri-Core, you have a transparent acrylic blade PCB holder, And in this case, if I had that on there, you would have seen it through that open emitter. And so I made a recessed holder specifically for this PCB so that there would be no edges. And that just goes right up to the very edge and brings the color all the way down. The other piece is that you typically have a small space, which really doesn't matter because it's inside the hilt. But in this case, you can see all the way down. And so this is a lit PCB to cover that few millimeters right at the bottom with color. And so we get a full color all the way through. With a tri-core blade, of course, you get 3 pixel strips inside there, gives you even lighting all the way around, fewer dead spots along the edges, and just a beautiful bright blade all the way through. And then of course, these are incredibly strong. This is the kind of blade I use. I battle with them full force. I am not even worried about it. While of course anything can break, and they do eventually, they are very strong. And so I would rate these as battle grade, and you'll truly enjoy using one of these blades. Let me show you how to put that into the hilt. So if we hold the hilt up here, all you're going to do is press and go all the way down. You can give it a slight twist clockwise if you need to get it to go down, and you'll feel blade connection sound just like that. So with the blade connected, you're going to want to tighten these set screws. There's 4 set screws all the way around. So just give them a little bit of a snug. There is no reason to over tighten these. You're just kind of tightening them down until they go all the way in, touch the blade, and feel a little bit of resistance. And that's plenty to keep that blade in there nice and sturdy. Okay, so with that, we'll go ahead and power this up. I'm going to actually do this first with the lights on because I want you to see just how bright these blades are. So I've got my full studio lights on, and we're going to light this up. Okay, so even with those lights on, you can still see that color. Truly a beautiful color. This is actually a light blue, very similar to what I've seen of Leia's blade. I'm going to turn that back off. And let's go ahead and turn the lights out, and I'll show you a couple other sound fonts and how that works. So of course we can see all of that lit. You can see that heartbeat coming through those vent holes on the side of the hilt. And we'll go ahead and power up and ignite. All right. Now, you might have noticed this one has what's called a pre-on. And the way this is set up in the config is that if I press the button, we get that pre-on like you just saw. But if I do one of the gesture controls to turn it on, like a twist, then it bypasses the pre-on, so it just goes straight on. It's a really cool font. So as I mentioned, the first font is Royalty by Kyberphonics. And then I've added a few of Grayscale fonts, freely available fonts for you as well. And of course, you can always purchase additional sound fonts and add them anytime. Green. Try one more. Okay, and then of course for volume control, if you hold the power button and tap the aux, enter volume menu. This has a roll volume, so you can actually see that volume across there. And let me just show you the max volume on this.
Maximum volume. Volume menu end.
So that is just a really loud piece here. Let me go back to
Princess Leia.
that Leia font and just show you this, again, Royalty by Pythophonic. Lightning block. Clash. Lockup would just be hold down the aux while you clash. Okay, let's turn on the lights again and turn that volume back down.
Enter volume menu.
And you can see it just roll down just like that. We'll bring that just up a little bit.
Volume menu
Right there.
end.
You can also check the battery level. We'll hold the aux button and tap the power button, then release. And this will actually light up the location on the blade. So I'll bring that to the tip because this is nearly full right now.
Battery level 81%.
And that again goes with that similar color. So green all the way down to red when the battery's low. And of course it would be down in this section when the battery's low. Okay, let's remove the blade. Just doing the opposite. Three and four. Okay. Get a blade removal sound. Can add that blade plug back in. Just like that. And there we have that piece back in. If we remove our chassis, again, we got that chassis detect. So we'll get that piece. Okay, and we can just put that back in our stand. And there you have 89Sabers Leia, custom built by Jedi Master Tech. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out and enjoy.